Assalamu alaikum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ومن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا أنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به وأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يؤتي الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Verily, the praise is due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek His forgiveness. We seek His assistance, and we seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own selves and from the evil of our own actions. And He who Allah guides, there is no misguidance for him. And He who Allah leaves astray, then there is no guidance for him. I testify that verily there is no deity worthy of worship alone, without partners except Allah. And I also testify that verily Muhammad is His slave and messenger. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah, have piety of Allah, as it is His right. And do not die except that you are in the state of Islam. O you mankind, fear your Lord, or have taqwa of your Lord. He who has created from you, who has created from a single soul, He has created its mate, and from those two He has created many men and women. Fear Allah, to whom you demand your mutual rights, and maintain the ties of kinship. O you who believe, fear Allah and speak a word straight to the point. He will correct for you your actions, and He will forgive you for your sins. And he who obeys Allah and His Messenger have already obtained the greatest achievement. أما بعد فإن أصدق حديث كتاب الله وخير هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشرور أمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Verily, the best of speech is the book of Allah, or the most truthful of speech is the book of Allah, and the best of guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The most evil of affairs are those newly invented matters that are introduced into this deen as though it's a part of it having no reference in the deen. Each such newly invented matter is an innovation. Each such innovation is a straying, and each such a straying is in the hellfire. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, we've reached another day of Jumu'ah. Here it is in this week, in this month of knowledge. This month that we're talking about here is supposed to be on knowledge. We're supposed to be talking about knowledge. And knowledge can come in a lot of different forms, and it can be talked about from a lot of different perspectives. We've talked about it from the perspective that Allah, knowledge is the thing that Allah has singled out mankind for, and this is by which He has raised mankind. He has given mankind a higher status by giving him this ability to have knowledge, as that we've made clear when Allah told Adam. He says, taught Adam the names of everything, and He sent them to the angels, and He told the angels, basically, do the same thing that Adam does. And the angels replied by stating that we don't have any knowledge except the knowledge that you have given to us, right? Making clear that He had now preferenced Adam and the descendants of Adam with this ability to acquire knowledge. And Allah has done this for us as a way of distinguishing us from a great many of His creation. And we know this, and we talked about this, and this is a perspective by which we're supposed to use. That knowledge is something that we use as mankind that distinguishes us. And then scholars of Islam, they talk about this in the sense that it is the knowledge that distinguishes us even from the animals. Because for a surety, an elephant is stronger than us, but we still hold a status higher than the elephant. Tiger is more fearsome than us, but yet we still hold a position higher than the tiger. And then you have those animals that are just conniving, and these kind of things, but yet the mankind has been given a position higher than them, even higher than the angels and shaitan. And again, this goes back to knowledge, so knowledge is one of those things that we should really hold and be looking at and taking note of. So what I wanted to talk about today was a particular knowledge. Not knowledge in general, because we talked about that. And inshallah, what I wanted to talk about, because you have this ability, and mankind has the ability, they can acquire knowledge. We can look at things, we can study them, and we can figure them out, and we can acquire knowledge, But sometimes knowledge is given to us, like the revelation. Allah has given us revelation, which is also knowledge, And so sometimes we need to take heed of that which was given to us, because many times that's what we do. We don't tend to take heed of that which comes freely. I remember, just as a sidebar, a brother, he came to the United States to have his eye. He was blind, and he was coming to the United States to have an operation to get his eyes corrected, so he could see, And I remember thinking, good gracious, this man's been blind all his life, and now he's about to have an operation, and he's going to be able to see. How are you going to commit a sin? Because he knows what it's like not to see. Now, most of us, we've been given our sight, but we don't really know what it's like not to have it. So we really don't appreciate it. Now, although we should be the same way, we don't have that explicitness of not being able to see and have to live our lives that way, and then all of a sudden getting the ability to see. And it's the same thing, like, not for me, because the revelation, I talked about this in the sense that, I got to the point where I thought there was no revelation. And then to come across this, for me, it made it just that much more profound. I'm like, oh my goodness, Allah did send us revelation, a way for us to actually learn. So Allah tells us in this that He says, inshallah, He says, here is a message for mankind. Let them take warning therefrom, and let them know that that there is only one God. And let the men of understanding take heed. Now, in this, Allah says, right, hadal balagun, right? We have a lot of words that they use for message, because in this particular verse right here, they use the word balagun, and they translate it as message, which is really not a really good translation, because what it really means is balagun is a profound set of information. Allah says, take heed in this profound set of information and know that there is only one God. And He tells us this from the perspective that, and you really got to take it in connection with another ayat. The law kind of says the same thing, but He gives a little bit more detail when He says, and know that therefore that there is no God but Allah. And the previous one, He says only one God, but then He tells us in this other ayat that there's no God but Allah. And He's telling us to take heed about this information that He's given us, and that this is profound information that is no more than La ilaha illallah. And He's giving us this information, He's telling us to take heed, and He said, know it. And a lot of times, especially from us to speak English and stuff like that, we don't recognize the different nuances that's associated to certain words, because Allah used the word a'alam, not a'araf. right? He uses the word know that we translate as know, but we still love a couple of words that we translate as know. But this word really means to be a scholar in this particular aspect of information. Allah is telling us to be a scholar in knowing that La ilaha illallah. Now, he's telling us this because he's telling us in the framework of understanding who we are, in the sense that, as we talked about before, that we've entered into a contract with Allah. And that contract, a lot of times we don't really fully understand it because we can't properly grasp some of the terms that's been used for us. And so we talked about this, that the deen of Allah, and what this word deen really means it means submission. And that a part of it is that, like, again, the best way I can explain it is just from a show I've seen. Again, like you said, you got the Lord and he's about to kill somebody, and other people are holding the individual, and he got it down. He's about to chop his head off with one of those big swords. It's heavy. The sword is heavy, and he's swinging it down and cut your head off. And you say, wait, right? To stop him. Now, it was easier for him to let the hammer or the axe or whatever it is he's going to cut your head off fall than to stop it. That's deen. Because at that moment, he submitted to whatever it is that his Lord is now telling him. And that's what we're supposed to be entered into. But we tend to have a habit of thinking that we're going to find something else. That we're going to say, okay, well, fine, I'm kind of been forced into this. It's not really a situation where I've done it of my own free will. Because you had a choice. You could have died, had your head cut off, or you could have asked to be stopped and enter into a position of submission. So Allah is reminding us here that once you did that, I know you may think you're going to have another option. Because that's what we would do. If you was in that situation, it was some king, and he put you in this situation, you'd be looking for another king somewhere that you might be able to get to stop this king from forcing you into a situation that you didn't want to be in. And the law is making clear to us with this ayat that there is no other king. It's just him. And if you're going to enter into this, then know for a surety there is nobody else to be looking for. We should not be trying to find somebody else or some other way. There's no sense of you associating any partners with Allah because there are no other partners. There is no one else that you can actually turn to that's going to make this a difference. So Allah is then telling us from another ayat, where he tells us that, again, and we've talked about this too, where Allah says he's purchased from the believer, so as to make it clear to you and to help you understand and even help you in your how you're looking at this. He said, I've purchased from the believer his self and his wealth, and in return, Jannah. So rejoice in the bargain. So Allah has now put us in a situation where we've entered into this deen with Allah, and he's telling us that now that you've entered into this, if you do your part, if you do what you're supposed to do, then Allah is going to then give you Jannah. Now, he's already given you everything that you have. He's given you your life. He's given you your wealth. He's given you everything that you have. And he said, now I'm going to purchase it back. I gave it to you. I'm going to purchase it back. And if you're in an agreement with selling it back to me, you will get Jannah. But there's a caveat here. You don't have to sell it back. Allah has given you the ability not to do that. You have a choice. You can choose not to sell it back to Allah. But this is where knowledge comes in it. Because when you start looking at it from a knowledge standpoint, you're saying, okay, fine, what sense does that make? You've gotten, one, you're dealing with something that is the power of which there is no doubt. There's no way of getting around the fact that you cannot escape this power. That you will be in a situation where you will be standing before this power and you will have to, in some kind of way, recognize what it is that he has created you for, which is to worship him. And so you have a choice where you can go ahead and do that willingly, align yourself to it in such a way that you should be doing it cheerfully. You should be having good cheer in doing this because you should recognize that Allah has given you everything and now he's going to buy it back and he's going to give you Jannah. So rejoice in the bargain. You got the better bargain because Allah could have made you do it anyway. He had to sell you. He had to buy nothing from you, nor did he have to give you anything. So for sure, we should be rejoicing in this bargain. But if we don't, Allah then gives us another ayat, and on this one, and it's funny for me because I remember I have a safe in my house. And at some point, my children always ask me, Dad, what's that safe for? And I always mess with them. Now I didn't really do this with none of my kids, so don't nobody think I did this, but I joke with them and I tell them, because in the safe are some dangerous stuff. So I tell them, you saw I was in that safe before. And they said, no, I don't remember. I said, oh, whatever age they asked me that question, some of a younger age, I tell them. So say they 10. I said, no, when you was 5, I took you to the safe and I opened it and I showed you what was in it. And I told you at that time, if you see this again, it'll be the last thing you see. And it was a threat that I was giving them, as their father. Because I was telling them that basically you live with me, I take care of you, I provide you with everything, and I expect you to follow my rules and regulations. And if you don't, I'm going to bring you down here to this safe, and we're going to open it, and it'll be the last thing you see. But to me, that's what the Lord does with this particular ayat. He's telling us here in this particular ayat that he says here, he says, Qala shaitan, lama kudiya amrukum, inna allaha wa'adakum wa'adu haqqun, wa'adakum wa'akhalafum wa'akhalaftakum, وما كان لي عليكم بالسلطان إلا أي دعواتكم فاستجبكم لي ولا تملوني ولوموا أنفسكم وأن بمصرخيكم وما أنتم بمصرخي إن كفرت وما أشركتمون من قبل إن ظالمين لهم عذاب عليم. Now the reason I read this in Arabic is because of some of the terminologies that is being used here, right? Because when you translate this ayat, sometimes we may get confused with some of the terminology. But Allah is saying, he says, when the matter has been decided, when all things have been determined, Satan will get up and he will say, the promise of Allah is true. I made you a promise and I failed in my promise. I had no power over you. All I did was call and you came, or you answered the call. He says, so do not blame me. Blame yourself. You cannot hear nor answer my screams, nor can I hear nor answer yours. This day I reject what you have associated with Allah from the past. And for those who spread mischief in the land, there has to be a severe punishment. Now, this ayah truly has no value for us, to me anyway, that we know this ayah, because Allah is basically telling us this ayah when Satan going to get up, and he's going to say this to the people. And if you hear this ayat, if you are one of those people who hear this ayat, know for sure that you're going to burn forever. So Allah is giving you this ayat. He said, I'm giving you a choice. You can rejoice in the bargain, or you can prepare yourself for this khutbah of shaitan that he going to give at the matter and at the time that it will be all other things have been already determined. And everybody will be where they're supposed to be. And at this point, once you start hearing this khutbah, it will be too late to say, wait. Subhanaka wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala mursaleen. Inshallah. Normally, this part of the khutbah, I talk about what are we trying to do as an organization. But I thought, really, a whole lot of it really had changed over the last month. So I thought I would tell you about a story that also related to knowledge. And this way it'll be quick, inshallah. That I heard some time ago, we had the brothers from Egypt had brought the sheikh in, right? And he was coming, from to the United States to teach knowledge, right? So one of the things he was teaching was he was supposed to be teaching about the methabs, and another one was about the rules and regulations associated to commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong. The 10 rules is associated to commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong. So on his way here, he was doing the khutbah. So he was doing the talk. So in the beginning of his talk, he was talking about on his way here. He was on his way to basically doing the talk on methabs, and he had said that it is a requirement that you follow a methab. Everybody has to follow a method, right? And so he was saying, he was just a segue in his sense of telling you how important knowledge was. His segue was talking about one of the events that he had happened on his way to coming to us to talk about the 10 rules associated to commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong. And so he came across a guy who had said that he said, well, yeah, I'm going to do this talk about the methabs and how it's a requirement for you to do the method, for you to follow a method. And the guy says, you don't have to follow no method. He said, now, at the time I was eating. And so when the guy said that, I turned around and started eating, kept eating. So everybody started laughing. Now, it was a couple of us, the brother, he was Arab, he was an Arab, and he was talking Arabic, and somebody else was translating. So I thought I must have missed something in the translation because I didn't understand why it was funny. That he tells the brother that he has to follow a method. Brother, so you ain't got to follow a method. And he just turned back around and kept eating. So and there was a couple other brothers that we were all English speakers and we didn't know the language. And so we all looked at each other. So I was kind of secured in the fact that I wasn't the only one that didn't understand, So, and I remember it was a comedian I used to watch, and he used to tell jokes and stuff like that. And he would tell you, some of these jokes gonna go over your head. Laugh anyway and figure it out when you get home. So that's what I was thinking of, that comedian. But I was like, well, no, I'm not sure I'm gonna figure this out. So I asked the brother that was doing the translation. Man, I didn't get it. Why is that funny? Because he was doing the talk, and they had a assembly of brothers that was up on the stage with him talking. And one of them was my sheikh, who I had a great deal of respect for, and he also thought it was funny. So I didn't understand why it was funny. So the brother was saying it's funny because, with the sheikh. Now, he says the other sheikh's name. I don't remember it. Maybe I'll talk to Akhi, or he maybe remind us, because this is a well-known statement I'm about to say. He said, because of Sheikh such and such, when he said such and such, and I still didn't know, what did he say? He said, the 4 men, the 4 people, And I'm saying, well, no, who are the 4 people? He said, oh, man, I didn't realize. So he said, okay, there are 4 people. Everybody falls into 4 categories. He said, and it was the sheikh that came up with this. He said, you are either one of these 4 people. You are either scholastic, where but you ain't sure of your knowledge. You ain't totally positive about it and these kind of things. This type of person, you encourage him. You let him know that he knows these kind of things. You encourage him so he gets comfortable with the fact that he's a knowledgeable person. He said, then you had a person, and he was saying, like the sheikh. He's knowledgeable. He has a doctorate in usul fiqh. He has a master's degree in the language. He has a bachelor's degree in the hadith. He's studied with many people, and he has verified his knowledge. You have people like him. They're knowledgeable, and they know they're knowledgeable. He said, learn from him. He said, then you have the person, he is not knowledgeable. He don't know. He actually is, not scholastic. He's not a knowledgeable person, and he knows he is not a knowledgeable person. He said, teach him. He said, then you had the last person. He said, this is why we laugh. He said, last person is the person that don't know, and he don't know he don't know. And the scholars of Islam say, shun him, because he's a fool. And many times, most of us, we tend to be in situations where we think we know. We have not verified our knowledge. We have not put anything. We just did some recursory looking up of something, and then we think we know. And then we want to engage in arguing with people who do. And many times we really don't even realize that the person stopped arguing with you, not because you're right, because he sees you as a fool. So many times, y'all, we really need to start paying attention to how and what we do and how we approach it. Inshallah. Allahumma izza islam ala muslimin wa khaddilla kafaratal wal mubtada wal mushrikin wa kullu min du wa adu wad-din. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذريتنا قرة عينا وجعلنا للمتقين. اللهم أدخلنا وذريتنا وأصولنا وقرآننا جنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. ربنا اغفر لنا وإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا يجعل في قلوبنا غلا الذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله عظيم ويذكركم واشكروه على نعمته وذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون وأقيموا الصلاة.